So I wanted to talk a little bit about dealing with triggered people, ego-triggered people, programmed people. A little bit of an advanced topic here, but maybe it'll save a bunch of you some time. So, basically because of our current system, where you actually have presidents of countries, and like George Bush, that will say things in front of the Senate at the State of the Union speech, you're either with us or against us. This divided and conquered mind inside ourselves, and obviously in our collective society. The dogs are over here. There's somebody driving by. So how to deal with this? Because you're going to run into a lot of people that are very invested in their truth, and they want to push it on other people. Hang on just a second. Miley, off. Stop it. It's enough. She's the one instigator that needs to be told. All right. So you're going to have people like that. You're going to have people like that to deal with, and especially if you put your face out there at all. So, and fanatics, since the human has been programmed to be disconnected from source on purpose, whether that's pineal gland fluoridation, shutting us off, or whatever, you know. So many, many institutions, when you want to control people, you obviously want them inside a box that you can, from the outside, manipulate. And that's done with isms. Scientism is one of them. My dad, I've mentioned, was a nuclear physicist, and I went down that path for a while. Religionism, governmentism, any ism, any thought belief system that becomes predominant. And then you program people that they need to proselytize. This is so obvious with Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, radical Muslim, Islamists. Any belief system that needs to push itself on others. So these people become fanatics. And then their ego gets twisted in there with fear or greed. Fear is basically you're not going to go to heaven, or the greed you are going to go to heaven, and they get tied up with that. We identify, the id entity identifies with the belief system. These people become fanatics and dangerous, potentially. This is why we've had so many religious wars, etc., and people fighting each other, against each other, turned against each other. All right, let me go deal with the dogs. On the live here, Miley's the instigator. Come on, guys. Miley, come. Miley, come. Bentley, of course, my dog, is perfect. He's just laying over there being really nice. So, when you get people like this, come here, Miles, you stay with Daddy. If you threaten their belief system, they can get dangerous because they're so invested. They're not connected to Source God. So they're ersatz, German word for replacement. They're looking for something to replace the hole in their being. Meaning, I'm not connected to God, Source, the Tao, my own naturalness, call it what you want. I grew up completely without any religionism or any of that, so I'm very grateful for that. So they then put their faith, invest themselves in their belief system. And then if somehow they then have to be right, because if they're not right, then they're going to hell, or they're going to look stupid, or their ego is going to get stepped on. So they become kind of like a cornered animal. And so how do you deal with this? Now, if you're a heart person, you can get really trapped in, oh, but if I can just help them see. They're just searching, right? And you can spend a lot of fruitless time trying to help these people. This is why the world needs to teach them. The actual spiritual physics of the system needs to knock the shit out of them. 2x4's wake-up calls to the head. And basically, most of us are going through some kind of 2x4 wake-up call from the universe. I call it the holy trifecta of awakening: cancer, bankruptcy, divorce, and or subsets like your child on drugs and so forth. These are harsh, harsh realities to get you to fucking snap out of it and start looking for something more real. So how do you deal with these people? Basically, if you're a heart person, you're going to have to learn, sometimes it's not time. The heart's going to have to learn to go, prodigal son, see ya. You got to let the world, kick your butt. If you're a mental person, you'll just figure it out and go, okay, this is fruitless to argue with people. Like Mark Twain says, don't try to teach a pig to sing. It only annoys the pig and frustrates the hell out of you. So, fanaticism, so it's this mindset, this set mind. Most people's minds are like concrete, all mixed up and permanently set. Obvious ones are Jehovah's Witnesses, any religionism, and people need to go through it. I'm friends with Jehovah in the sense I understand his role. I've actually worked with someone that was generationally involved with that, and I'd actually visit with Jehovah. At first I was very angry, like, why the fuck are you controlling souls like this and mind controlling them and feeding off their energy? But it's actually people that don't have any connection inside. It's like they need military rules, or they'll just degenerate into chaos because they have no self-direction. So there is a time and place for that. And so many people need that stuff. Most people, I would say, still need very harsh rules. People who don't need laws, why do you need laws? You have an internal compass. Like Jesus says, the whole of the law is love. So this shut down human bicameral mind, your slit, your middle of your brain is actually divided and conquered. The corpus callosum that the two hemispheres communicate through is literally not grown together. It's like a big divide. You've been divided and conquered. And that's manifested in various ways. Your dream life, your quote 3D life, etc., so forth. So these people literally are terrified. They're like scared feral dogs and cats. They'll bite you. So what you do, the point where I'm at with it, eventually you can smell it, or you sense it psychically. Oh, okay, here's a programmed person. Now, lately there's some of this same, you're either inside in the know like us, or you're a stupid person. Now that spirituality or truth awakening movement is getting bigger and bigger, that's going to infect these areas as well. Here's two examples. The moon landing and the flat earth shit. So those people that are susceptible to that in other times would become super religionists. Our Catholicism is better. Protestants are evil and should be killed. They'll actually do that same us versus them. And they lose the humanity. They lose the respect. It degenerates very quickly or right off the bat. And this just happened. So I used it as a teaching method. Usually I just delete it when I smell it. But it felt like something should be addressed. Like most spiritual teachers, whatever, there are truth movement people, they don't usually address this. I'll just call it out a little bit. Like David Icke, I love his stuff. He's a hero. I've actually had some interaction with that, with him. And with one of his former partners that at the time. Anyway, long story. Hero. But because he's doing such a big job, he can't come out and just say, the flat earth thing is bullshit. Because 20% of his people are being sucked into it, right? So it's a delicate balance here of working these things. So, and here's the nuance. In the bicameral, you're either with us or against us. It's either black and white. You can't be a little bit pregnant. It's either Coke or Pepsi. It's either Ford or Chevy. Now make your choice. It's either Republicans or Democrats. That's the only land of the free. Home of the brave. You have total freedom. Here's your two choices. That programmed into the masses, right? Dealing with that. So the nuance, I'll use the moon landing thing, for example. People go, oh my God, Stanley Kubrick was hired by NASA to set up sound stages in Pasadena when they did the moon landing, and they had it all set up there, and they filmed a bunch of stuff. Therefore, the bicamera, the divided and conquered mind will go, oh, the whole moon landing was a hoax. It's a whole stupid thing. You're all programmed. And I'm in the know. I know better. You're all stupid sheeple. That's how you do it, right? So it is true that Stanley Kubrick, 2001, was hired by NASA to film stuff as backup in case shit went really wrong, to protect the people, to whatever they could put in there with Walter Cronkite when it was happening, and some backup footage. So you need to learn to have nuance, learn to discern. When you're, how can the people see if their eyes have been gouged out? When your pineal eye, your heart eye, your intuition eye in your belly, you've been completely disconnected from that, so you're easy to manipulate. So then people go, oh, the whole moon landing was a hoax. No, there's just more to the story. Yes, they may even have used some of the shots that Stanley Kubrick did, just for illustration purposes, because this is sending it to the public. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And or people realize that Jesus was obviously not born on December 25th, and the Flavians took Saturnalia of the Romans and converted it into the holiday. Emperor Constantine has a vision. Oh, let's use this cult. People seem to be really into it and willing to die for it, so let's use that to start controlling the empire. That does not mean that Jesus didn't exist. That's the same either or. You're either with us or against us, thinking that the split mind, maybe in the enlightened state, the awakened state, that big divide in your brain goes away and it's just one solid brain, fully integrated. That's what I feel. So, in this still divided and conquered world, they don't care, the people, the beings, the archons that like to divide and conquer and suck the louche energy off of people. They don't care what the fuck it is. Yeah, let's let them to fight about religion or science or whether the earth is flat or round or if the moon landing happened or not. They're just using any tool and laughing, going, hey, let's divide these people and let's use every tool to do it. So you have to learn to realize when someone is in the divided and conquered state and they're a true believer for whatever cause they've been programmed to help divide others from themselves so they get to feel important, that state will nowadays be used, and you'll get people on the, quote, truth movement or real and a newer spirituality fighting each other. And we cannot have the oneness that we yak about and post about on Facebook until we realize this. Now, most spiritual teachers don't talk about this because it tends to attract fanatics. And they can be dangerous. They kill people. They assassinate people. They attack. They feel so threatened. When you and sometimes when you're in the spiritual movement for a long time, the real one, where you're actually like, oh, okay, I don't want to blame others. I actually want to heal myself. And you've been doing that for years. You forget how easily triggerable these very fragile, disconnected spirits with very, very fragile egos are if you push their one little hot button that makes them feel, this is the one truth that I have to push, whether by the sword, or attacking people on Facebook or whatever. This is what you're dealing with. So the way you have to deal with it is usually, well, there's two things. You just learn to smell it and go, okay, they're not open to reason. It's like arguing with Jehovah's Witnesses. We all know that one, right? It's fruitless. It's a waste of time. Don't try to teach pigs to sing. It annoys the pig and it'll just frustrate the shit out of you, right? So, that's the 90% of the time, you just got to ignore it. Unless, like me, occasionally I'll use it for illustrative purposes like I'm doing here. The other 10% of the time, you're going to have to tell them to back off. You're going to have to stiff arm them. You're going to have to say, get off my property. Get out. And heart people need to learn that. We tend to want to be nice all the time. But you can't be nice to these energies. They want just to engage with you because it's like bullies. You don't engage. You either give them the stiff arm, the big stick, and go get the fuck out of here. Or physically throw them out. You ever notice that? Any real big bands have to have major security? Why? Because these fanatic, divided soul fragment pieces will attack anything that has energy. So Led Zeppelin, when they're big, they have to have muscle. You know? First the hippies thought, oh, we don't need security. And then, at Altamont, somebody gets killed when the Stones are playing Sympathy for the Devil. So you got to keep it real. So dealing with the divided, programmed fool tools, and here from a shamanic perspective, now since I work with Aya and really good shamans that do that, you'll actually get to experience these bigger archons, these energies that operate. Miley, come here. Stop it. There's no need to bark at all these people. Come on. Miley, come. Leave it. Come on, darling. Let's go. Like that. She's kind of nervous when we adopted her, so she gets a little nervous and she feels she has to bark at everybody. Gabby here is not. But Miley then infects everybody else. So you got to stop it. Stop it. Sit. Basically, this is how you treat humans. Good girl, Miley. We don't need to do that. And you don't need to program your little sister that she needs to do that. Your little daughter. Okay. So those are the two methods. 90% of the time, delete, gone, block, or be off the radar so they don't even see you. 10% of the time, throw them the fuck out of here. And you have to learn that. So, as a teaching method here a little bit, part of your evolution when you open your heart and you want to help and share the bigger perspective that we don't need to be divided and conquered over belief systems and actually kill each other. But you cannot help people understand that when they are a fanatically programmed Jehovah's Witness, flat earther, moon landing hoaxer, whatever. We're this type of Buddhist, not the Mahayana Buddhist. Anytime there's the division, you can feel basically, if you can't wise people discuss, but you go into attack or having to belittle or your ego needs to be right, you are still divided and conquered. And those people you can't really do anything for until they have the shit kicked out of them so much by the universe. Occasionally they'll come around, but I've really hardly ever seen it. They'll have a wake-up. So that's a lot of rambling about that, but maybe it worked. And if it saved some of you from getting lost while that's happening. So notice when you get these fanatics, these fool tools, these tools of the archons or the dividing and conquer people, beings that want to, own our planet. Just notice, it doesn't matter if it's Jehovah's Witnesses, flat earthers, moon landing hoaxers, Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Green Party people, I vote with my vagina people, or white supremacist people. These are all tools to divide and conquer humans away from the real thing, which is the whole of the law is love. I respect you. I don't care. Your belief system's fine. It's just exploring. But anytime you've placed your belief system before basic respect in humanity, those people you can't really argue with. It's like Muslim terrorists. They're fanatics. Or Christian terrorists. Or Buddhist terrorists, which exists. It's not that many Taoist terrorists, because part of the Tao is it expresses in myriads of ways. All right, much love.